There's something uniquely devastating about the pain that follows a breakup, that crushing sensation of collapse that leaves you standing naked and vulnerable before yourself. Perhaps you're experiencing that strange feeling of becoming a stranger in your own life, as if the woman you were yesterday vanished along with him. This universal experience we all navigate at some point actually conceals one of life's most beautiful gifts, even though in the moment we're completely blind to it. What you're about to discover will fundamentally shift how you view this painful chapter, revealing why your heartbreak might be the greatest catalyst for transformation you never saw coming. Today we're exploring this mysterious territory that opens after separation, this uncharted land where we discover who we truly are when nobody else defines us. Because contrary to what society tells us, a breakup isn't the end of something, but the magnificent beginning of everything. Do you remember those first mornings when you opened your eyes with that sensation of free fall, that brutal realization that your reality had shifted overnight? Those moments when your hand automatically searches the other side of the bed, seeking a presence that's no longer there. That stubborn habit of preparing 2 cups of coffee before remembering you're now alone. Your brain, accustomed to operating in couple mode for months or years, continues searching for the other half of every thought, every decision, every emotion. It's as if your nervous system was programmed for a dance with 2 partners and now must relearn to dance solo. This phase of emotional withdrawal strangely resembles the grief process described by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, but with a particular dimension few people truly grasp. First comes denial, that inner voice whispering he'll return, that this is just a pause, that you simply need to wait. You scrutinize your phone like a crystal ball, analyzing every notification with secret hope of seeing his name appear. Then anger rises, that dull rage against him, against yourself, against life itself, that suddenly seems unfair and cruel. This anger sometimes surprises you with its violence, you who thought yourself so gentle and understanding. Next comes bargaining, those scenarios you construct in your head, those if-onlys that loop like an obsessive melody. If only I'd been more patient, if only I'd communicated better, if only I'd chosen my words differently during that fatal argument. Finally, the profound sadness, that melancholy that colors everything with gray, even the most beautiful sunsets over Central Park, or your friends' laughter at your favorite Manhattan cafe. But what few people realize is that each of these stages brings you closer to something extraordinary. This pain you're feeling isn't just the end of a love story. It's the difficult but necessary birth of your authentic identity. You're not just grieving a relationship, you're shedding layers of compromise and adaptation that have accumulated over years, revealing the luminous core of who you've always been beneath. Now let's talk about that crucial phase where everything shifts, that moment when you begin glimpsing light at the tunnel's end. Initially, this solitude can feel crushing, like an oversized coat on your shoulders. You wake up mornings and realize that for the first time in ages, perhaps years, you're accountable to nobody but yourself. This newfound freedom can completely disorient you at first. What to do with this evening stretching before you without someone asking what you want to watch on Netflix, how to choose a restaurant without negotiating your tastes with another's. What strange sensation to spend an entire hour in a hot bath without someone asking if you're almost finished. These small daily moments suddenly become fascinating spaces of rediscovery. You begin noticing details that escaped you during all those years of coupled life. That particular way, sunlight filters through your bedroom curtains on Sunday mornings, creating dancing patterns on your wall. The simple, forgotten pleasure of drinking your coffee exactly as you love it, dark and steaming hot, without compromise or negotiation. The freedom to choose your television program without justifying your taste for those art history documentaries he found boring. Gradually, a fascinating realization emerges from this new solitary routine. This loneliness you dreaded so much transforms into a form of companionship with yourself you'd never experienced before. You discover that being alone and feeling lonely are two completely different experiences, almost opposite. Being alone becomes a choice, a privileged space where you can finally hear your own voice without it being drowned by another's. It's in these moments of chosen silence that aspects of your personality you'd forgotten rise to the surface. That passion for photography you'd abandoned because he found your shots too artistic and not practical enough. That desire to travel solo you no longer dared express since he laughed at your plan to discover Angkor's temples. That part of you that loves getting lost for hours in Barnes and Noble, leafing through philosophy or Jungian psychology books. Feeling lonely, conversely, was paradoxically what you sometimes experienced even in his presence when you lost yourself in his expectations, in the image he had of you, in the version of yourself you thought he preferred. This distinction completely transforms your perception of this period. Carl Jung spoke of this process as returning to the authentic self, that part of us existing independently of our social roles, relationships, or adaptive masks. According to his individuation theory, we spend life's first half building a solid ego, adapting to the external world, sometimes at our inner truth's expense. The second half, often triggered by a crisis like a breakup, invites this reverse movement, this descent into our depths to rediscover who we truly are. This inner reconstruction phase often involves rediscovering forgotten passions, like buried treasures surfacing again. You suddenly remember that desire to learn Spanish you'd shelved because your weekends were now devoted to the football games he adored, those contemporary dance classes you'd abandoned because he found them frivolous and preferred you spend evenings with him binge-watching series, those long solitary walks through Washington Square Park that nourished your soul but he judged boring and antisocial. Little by little, you begin inhabiting your own life rather than constantly sharing it in permanent negotiation. You relearn making decisions based on your deep desires rather than systematic compromise that eventually exhausted you. This reconstruction is absolutely not a linear process, and it's important to accept this. There will be days when you feel strong and independent, proud of this woman you're rediscovering with wonder, and others when nostalgia overwhelms you, like an unpredictable wave, when you deeply doubt your capacity for happiness without him. If you're finding value in this exploration and it's accompanying you on your own journey, take a moment to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. This simple gesture genuinely helps grow this supportive community and ensures you're alerted whenever new content exploring feminine psychology is published. Your support allows us to continue creating this type of in-depth content, far from the cookie-cutter recipes and superficial advice found everywhere else. Together we're building something meaningful, a space where authentic transformation is not just discussed, but deeply understood and lived. These emotional oscillations are not only normal, but necessary for your transformation. They're part of what psychologists call adaptive resilience, this remarkable capacity to navigate different emotional states without being defined or overwhelmed by any of them. Each wave of sadness that passes leaves you slightly stronger, slightly more anchored in your own reality, like trees that resist storms by developing deeper roots. Over weeks and months, something absolutely extraordinary occurs in your relationship with yourself. You begin developing a genuine friendship with yourself, something you'd perhaps never truly experienced before in your life. This self-friendship first manifests in small, tender gestures you grant yourself without guilt. That personal development book you buy simply because it appeals to you, without needing to justify this purchase to anyone. That essential oil massage you allow yourself on a Wednesday evening, just because your body needs it, and you deserve this moment of gentleness. That solo movie night that becomes a precious date with yourself, where you fully savor this freedom to choose the film that truly resonates with you. You progressively learn to speak to yourself with the same kindness and patience you'd naturally grant your best friend. That critical inner voice that constantly reproached you for not being enough of this or too much of that begins transforming into a softer, more understanding, more encouraging voice. You realize with sudden clarity that you're the only person with whom you'll spend absolutely your entire life, from first breath to last, and this fundamental relationship deserves cultivation with as much care and attention as any other. This new relationship with yourself radically and permanently transforms your connection to others, creating a positive domino effect across all areas of your existence. When you stop seeking validation of your existence from others, when you no longer expect them to fill a void that only you can truly complete, your relationships instantly become more authentic, balanced, and nourishing. You're no longer in perpetual, exhausting demand, but in genuine exchange, in healthy reciprocity. You can love without losing yourself in the other, give without completely emptying yourself, receive without feeling indebted or guilty. This emotional autonomy you develop day after day doesn't make you less loving, quite the opposite. It allows you to love more purely, more freely, freed from that panic fear of abandonment that perhaps poisoned your previous relationships and made you accept the unacceptable. You discover this fundamental truth that the deepest and most lasting love is born when two complete and fulfilled people consciously choose to share their fullness rather than desperately trying to mutually fill each other's lacks and wounds. This transformation doesn't only concern your future romantic relationships, it positively influences your entire way of being in the world and positioning yourself in your different life spheres. Your friendships become more sincere and deeper because you no longer need to play a role or wear a mask to be accepted and loved. Your relationship to work evolves considerably because you finally dare express your creative ideas and opinions without constantly fearing judgment or rejection. Even your relationship with your family changes profoundly as you stop seeking their systematic approval for each of your important decisions. This new version of yourself, more anchored in your values, more authentic in your expressions, more confident in your choices, naturally attracts people who resonate with your deep truth. You notice with surprise that superficial and toxic relationships tend to fade on their own, without effort or confrontation, while deeper and more nourishing connections emerge as if by magic in your life. It's as if by finding your authentic frequency, you allow the right people to find you more easily, creating remarkable relational synchronicity. Months pass and you realize with surprise, mixed with gratitude, that this breakup which had caused you so much suffering has transformed into one of your existence's most beautiful gifts, not because pain was necessary in itself, but because it forced you to undertake this inner journey toward yourself that you might never have dared attempt otherwise. You now understand that true love begins with this fundamental capacity to love yourself, not in a narcissistic or self-centered way, but with that lucid tenderness that recognizes and accepts your strengths as well as your weaknesses, your light as well as your shadow zones. This profound acceptance of your complete humanity paradoxically makes you both stronger and more vulnerable simultaneously. Stronger because you're no longer afraid to confront your own depths and uncomfortable truths. More vulnerable, because you no longer need those defensive armors that protected you, certainly, but also isolated you from the world and others. When Carl Jung stated with striking accuracy that he who looks outside dreams, he who looks inside awakens, he was describing exactly this process of profound transformation you've just traversed. This breakup forced you to turn your gaze from the other to yourself, and in this apparently painful movement, your true nature, your authentic essence was revealed. You're no longer that woman who defined herself primarily in relation to a man, but one who exists fully by herself and can therefore choose in complete consciousness with whom to share this rediscovered fullness. This fundamental discovery absolutely changes everything in your approach to life and relationships. You now know with certainty that you need no one to be complete, and it's paradoxically this assumed independence that makes you capable of true intimacy, because authentic intimacy isn't born from fusion or dependence, but from conscious meeting between two whole beings who choose to create together something greater than themselves, while jealously preserving their individuality. This new way of loving you're developing is infinitely richer, more stable, and more fulfilling than what you knew before. If you're currently traversing this reconstruction period after a breakup, remember that every tear shed, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt is an integral part of this alchemical process transforming you. You're not repairing yourself like a broken object. You're revealing yourself in all your splendor. The woman you're discovering in this chosen and inhabited solitude isn't new. She was already there, simply buried under layers of adaptation and compromise accumulated over the years. This painful but liberating experience teaches you that you are your own refuge, your own source of strength, your own best company, and it's from this unshakable inner certainty that all your future loves will be born freer, deeper, truer than anything you could have known until now. Your breakup wasn't a tragic end, it was the magnificent beginning of your renaissance.